Breaking Spectre here with another installment in the You Are Witnessing, Watching the Systematic Destruction of the Old Guard overarching series. And in this one, I think I'm just going to call this Up in Smoke, and I think you'll quickly see why. So if you've been following us for a little while, you know that we've been doing an overarching series where we're looking at some of the banksters, media, globalists, government, autos, big pharma, etc. Already done a series on GM and a little bit on Google, which we will come back to here eventually here. But today's focus, let's take a look at PG&E. They've certainly been in the news here quite a bit, and like I said, we'll just call this Up in Smoke. Now, just yesterday, a little bit of bad news in regards to PG&E is gas line explosion engulfed San Francisco buildings, and they were in flames. This was reported yesterday, I think, out of San Francisco, where it looks like some third-party contractors were laying fiber optics and hit a gas main. So bad luck in regards to PG&E. Now, granted, if you've been following us for a little while here, we had talked a little bit about this with Sean over at SGT Report here a couple months back in the Dark to Light exposing the 2018 midterm elections. Sean certainly had a little bit to say about PG&E and some of the folks that reside on the board. And then we highlighted that again here on We the People Insider with the Zooming In series, California Burning. And if you missed that, you may want to go back and take a look at that, where we did highlight PG&E and some of the finances and disrepair that their facilities had. So let's walk this back a little bit. Let's go back to about November 14th here. PG&E plummets after drawing down billions on its revolvers. Now, mind you, this is just after the latest fires that took place right around the election time, and they knew that they were going to have an onslaught of claims against them. So we start to see some movement, especially in the financial markets. The stock tumbled over 20% in pre-market trading after the company disclosed it has fully drawn down its revolving credit facilities in anticipation of soaring liquidity needs. Flash forward to the next day, on the 15th, PG&E implodes. These hedge funds are getting destroyed. So mind you, the hedgies and that are out there are also heavily vested in PG&E, and with their stock cratering, it's drawing them down as well. So also on the 15th, the Zero Hedge article, here's why PG&E, which was just downgraded by Moody's, is soaring after hours. And you kind of have to scratch your head at some of this stuff. What's down is up, what's up is down, left is right. That's typical of what happens in the markets these days, especially when everything is algorithm driven, headline driven especially. So that's why we see a lot of this whipsawing. Flash forward to the 23rd of November 2018, out of the Chico Enterprise record, Campfire. Map shows where PG&E had planned to shut down power ahead of the campfire. And the Bay Area News Group exclusively obtained maps of where PG&E had planned to shut down power ahead of the campfire. One area included a spot where Cal Fire is investigating. And this inset here highlights that, and you can kind of walk through the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 down the side there of the transmission line malfunction starting on November 8th at 6:15, what was reported at 6:30, 6:45, 7:04 a.m., etc. there as that fire took off. And they, of course, aborted the shutdown plan. On December 12th, Mercury News reports, Campfire PG&E notifies state regulators that key electrical towers had damage before the deadly blaze. So this would seem to imply that there was certainly neglect. Flash forward now to the beginning of the year, January 4th, 2019. PG&E shares plunged 30% on reports of possible bankruptcy filing. So again, knowing that all these claims are going to come against them, not having the liquidity to be able to pay all these out, they're already planning on bankruptcy filing. This is January 4th, mind you. January 7th, California isn't buying PG&E bankruptcy threats. So I think Newsom may or may not have already been sworn in as new governor, and they're calling her bluff. The question was, I think, in this particular article, is whether or not the California legislature was going to build some legislation in to act as a backstop for them. Kind of a too big to fail type scenario. You should remember that from 2008, certainly. January 8th, S&P downgrades PG&E to junk, launching countdown to $800 million collateral call. So again, stress on their finances. Flash forward to January 12th. PG&E reportedly planning bankruptcy announcement to workers as soon as Monday. And they notified employees as soon as Monday that it's preparing potential bankruptcy filing. But as with any good company, of course, the board typically who sets the CEO's pay usually has clauses in for the nice little golden parachute. And of course, Geisha Williams here managed to jump ship just before. And so, as reported by the News Observer on the 13th, and a story has since been pulled for whatever reason, the CEO of Pacific Gas and Electric resigned Sunday, and employees could learn this week if the utility will declare insolvency while facing the bankruptcy filing. And there, of course, you can see the Zero Hedge articles also reported on the same day of the 14th there. PG&E bonds crater, shares crash 50% as CEO quits ahead of bankruptcy. And of course, Geisha Williams, who abruptly left the sinking ship just hours before notifying the company's workers it would file for bankruptcy within weeks, late on Sunday, is set to walk away with millions in cash. How very convenient, and, in my opinion, criminal. Flash forward to the 15th. Zero Hedge. PG&E stock hits record low, misses interest payments as bankruptcy looms. So California Governor Gavin Newsom and other lawmakers showed little interest in bailing out the beleaguered company. And there's a reason for that, so stay tuned here toward the end and I'll explain why. On the 15th, continued out of Reuters. Rothschild vice chairman resigns from PG&E board. So not only is the CEO gone, but we're also seeing some of the top execs as well as board members leave. On the 16th, PG&E massive risk management fail, intent or ignorance. And of course, this shows blood on their hands. Do you think it was a coincidence that PG&E management did little to recapitalize a balance sheet for fire liabilities at the cost of stock prices or bonuses, stock options, and probably jobs? I think not. Also on the 16th, Lehman, WorldCom, now PG&E. The failing angels are back. This term, I believe, was coined by either J.P. Morgan or Bank of America, I forget which, but since 2008, when we had the big financial crisis, this is kind of a term that's been dubbed for those that kind of take the fall, I guess. But PG&E will become the third largest IG investment grade default since 1999, behind Lehman and WorldCom, with $17.5 billion of index eligible debt outstanding. Flash forward to the 18th, some other news that came through out of the SAC-B. Erin Brockovich to lead protest against PG&E bankruptcy at the Capitol. So she's in the news. 24th, they talk about PG&E shares surge and are halted after company cleared in deadliest Tubbs fire probe. And so their shares were halted on news that investigators found that the catalyst for the fire was a private electrical system, basically saying that PG&E was not liable. And that flashes forward to this report. About 80 pages, heavily redacted, no pics. A lot of eyewitness accounts and so forth that were all within this particular report, but a lot of black bars, certainly, if you take the time to actually go to this report at the site you see down at the bottom there, calfire.ca.gov. And this is the California Department of Forestry and Fire Protection, Sonoma Lake Napa Unit, and their investigation report. About 80 pages of nice reading. Flash forward to the 28th here. Zero Hedge article. PG&E shares soar as investors offer plan to avert bankruptcy. So it looked like there briefly that Citadel might come through and act as a backstop to prevent them from going bankrupt. But as we soon find out here, that fell through on reports that rejecting the debt deal, then they will proceed to bankruptcy. So that was within just hours. The stocks were down over 7% after hours on a Bloomberg report that the company still expects to file for Chapter 11. And still on the 28th, PG&E to file bankruptcy within hours joins Lehman and WorldCom. And also on the 28th, news that came out, PG&E stops honoring settlements with fire victims as bankruptcy nears. And this was in regards to the properties that were destroyed in the Butte Fire in 2015 in the Sierra Nevada foothills. That was blamed on the company. Flash forward to the 29th. Bankrupt PG&E seeks to pay $130 million in 2018 bonuses. So, as with, like I said, any good corporate board who has given their CEO a nice little parachute package, of course we got to honor paying out bonuses, even though we're insolvent, have no liquidity, and going bankrupt. Outstanding. Welcome to corporate America, folks. Also on the 29th, PG&E files for bankruptcy protection with $50 billion in debt, and that's furthered in the Mercury News article below, where it states PG&E Q&A. Will bills increase? Will fire victims suffer? And a lot of that is centered around whether or not basically consumers of electricity in California are going to be left holding the bag. Flash forward to the 30th here. Federal judge blasts criminal PG&E's clear-cut pattern of starting fires. And I think it was quite aptly put. It's a good read if you get the opportunity. You should go check it out. Some other headlines from the 30th here. PG&E bankruptcy hits green energy suppliers. Just a smattering of articles in that on the 30th, all from your favorite Mockingbird media sites like Barron's Online, Wall Street Journal, and CBS Sacramento. So that being said, we bat around to the 6th here, and this article came out, having a government-granted monopoly means never having to say you're sorry. And this was penned by Mises Institute, which is very good for those who follow financials, and I would encourage you to check them out. And in that article, there's a lot of good missives here that I pulled out. States much of the market observer community recently has wondered why PG&E's stock had a sharp valuation increase over the course of a day. This is somewhat illogical given that PG&E admitted that their faulty equipment caused California's worst wildfire in recorded history and is faced with tens of billions in losses and potential lawsuits. Yet, after plunging from a share price high of $49.42 prior to this admission to $5.07, the market decided that it's not that big a deal and bid up the share price to $13 as of the 31st January 2019 close date. What happened that got investors so excited about buying PG&E shares again? The company declared bankruptcy. Huh? So a company goes bankrupt and the share prices go up? Well, that's ridiculous. Normally, when a company declares bankruptcy, investors tend to flee. The problem here, though, is PG isn't a normal company. Like most utilities in the country, PG&E is a state monopoly. And PG&E essentially isn't going anywhere, and investors looked at the bankruptcy filing not as a weakness that could be exploited by competitors, because there are none by law, but as a means of improving company cash flow. But PG&E, realistically, faces no real threat to itself or its long-term operations, and because of the state monopoly protections granted to them, PG&E will never have to alter their operations. The end result to PG&E shareholders didn't particularly matter, as someone else would shoulder that $9 billion. They're banking on the same thing today. And so basically the article concludes with this. The only way to drive the right behavior is if there are competitors around to create consequences for behaving poorly. Folks, what this highlights is the very fact that much of what we see in corporate America today is not free market. It's what I would call fascism, I think, by definition, if you look it up, where the line is blurred between the private sector and the government. And that's exactly what we see here. No harm, no foul. Yeah, whatever. At the end of the day, are they liable? Yeah, they'll pay some out. They get to go bankrupt. And it's treated just like it was with the big banksters in 2008 that were too big to fail. So basically, onward and upward. And just to highlight with one of the PG&E's graphics, Golden State leads the way in solar, and this was their projection from 1993 forward past 2025 on solar. I think there was actually an article about the fact they may have to divest solar here, so I didn't pull that particular article in, but I just thought I'd throw that in here at the end just to highlight how ridiculous this is. So Figured I'd bring you a quick update on PG&E here, and let me know if you have any comments, thoughts, questions, and we'll see you back on the next one. Breaking Spectre signing off.